This is going to be, yes, probably I'll speak for less than 30 minutes, let me see 35 marks, and then we will have a pair conversation at the end of it. Because it's very easy to take information and do nothing about it, right? So let's start with, this whole thing is about, already people are scared quite a lot about what will AI do to human beings, right? Lot of fear, lot of confusion, and some other side there is lot of hope. So this presentation is more about what human beings can do to be relevant, say next 10-15 years at least. After that we don't know, right? At least next 15 years what is possible. So that's what this presentation is going to be. So I'm going to cover, for example, if you look at last 10,000 years or so, or there has been always inventions and discoveries in human life. Every invention and discovery disrupted the life, which means it was not the same. Yeah. Second is, this is the key part. Research shows there are certain intelligence all human beings have, but most of us don't use some of them. Then there are capabilities to manage disruption and transformation. And then there are innate human qualities which are going to be far more relevant now in this world. And you will see most of these qualities today are not even respected. Yeah? So that's the huge shift that is going to happen. And then how are we going to be prepared? So this is what the whole thing is going to be. So looking at, okay, so if you look at 10,000 years, human beings, the first one was weapon. Weapon, I think all of you would have studied history well, I guess. So initially it was Stone Age, right? It was not metal. So even when human beings started life, if you really look at, the size matters those days, right? The bigger animal, it can hit and kill. So most of the time, being small, human beings were not in the hierarchy on top. They will sit, they are scared, they run away, they sit in the tree. Even food, they wouldn't get what they want. So that is when they started with weapons, so that they can kill and eat. The biggest invention, according to research, is fire. Okay? Suddenly, once they found fire, they could cook. More than that, they could burn forests. They will burn so many animals in one shot. So this was the biggest power human beings had at some point of time. Then we moved into living in huts and settlements or villages. Then another biggest thing, till that point, human beings were called hunters and gatherers. They were hunting or they were going around and gathering. They were not settled in a place. But the moment agriculture started, in some sense, I think you saw the presentation from the NGO. This is where the whole world's mess up started, actually. Okay? The first mess up was agriculture, because of which we started controlling land. Yeah? Then we started controlling water. So what human beings understood is, if we have to survive, we have to control as many things as possible. Okay. So after irrigation, then we said we have to be together so that we can fight the neighbor. So from small village, then into country, this is when tax system started, right? That's another human invention, the mess. So once this happened, then we wanted to travel more, so ships. So if you look at all, this is 10,000 years. Okay. Now the last 350 years, the pace of invention and change has been very, very high, starting with industrial revolution. From agriculture, we went into industry. That's the shift that started. Then printing press, electricity, cars. At some point in New York, within 2 years or 3 years, there is a beautiful photo where one Model T car is there and so many horses. In 3 years, one horse and everything became Model T. Just imagine in 3 years, because horses were not ready. They are no more relevant, and this can happen to any of us. Yeah. Then we had airplane, we had phone, atom, then we had digital revolution. Yeah. So how many of you, just raise your hand, how many of you have heard this word called perma crisis? Anyone? Okay. So by definition, crisis is short term. What does it mean? Floods happens, it's a short term phenomena. It will take 6 months, 8 months to settle. Next year it might come. So there is a time, very short phenomena, and there is enough time for settling and managing and resettling. Okay? But this is a word, in 2022 it got into dictionary, and in some sense it came after COVID. So basically what it says is, next 20 years, the entire world is going to be in permanent crisis. What it means is, one crisis after another crisis or multiple crises. So that cooling time for human being to settle and get ready doesn't exist, minimum next 20 years. So my son is 22. I sometimes wonder till 42 what his life is going to be. Okay? Seriously. So looking at many of you, so basically I think today they talked about water and all that, right? So every November something happens in Chennai or Tamil Nadu, east side. July to October Kerala gets hit. This used to be, when I was young, maybe once in 3 years, 4 years. Now it's every year. So lot of things, and the number of wars that happens in the world, and also the information we get about it, right? So when I was young, let's say 83, I studied in Trichy, okay? I was in school 83 to 85, is when the LTT, the big thing happened in 83, okay? Only newspaper was there for us to read. And that also, those days, small villages will not get newspaper also, right? So we didn't know what happened in the world. But today, before it happens, Times of India kind of papers will tell you it has already happened, right? So this is one thing I want you to understand, the amount of information overload, right? So for example, I don't use any WhatsApp for any group. I am an old man, that's a different thing. I read newspaper. I am not in Facebook. So many a times what you need to understand is, actual data and information is not what you get from social media. It is impressions and it is opinions. So consume with some sensitivity and care. That's all it is. So what happens is, with all this, people can create a problem by saying there is bomb happening somewhere, there is war happening somewhere, which you don't even know. And with whatever interesting thing now, you can edit the video, right? You can create the video which is not true. So just be cautious. One is the permanent crisis. The other one is the perception of permanent crisis due to social media and the information is far more scary. Yeah? Yeah, this is the world. I guess I have to live also. I think I want to live another 30 years, so I'm also going to be there. Let's see what happens. So now we have the next disruption called artificial intelligence, right? So in some sense, all of you are going to, at least next some years, live through both together. That's what it is. Okay. Yeah, I like the caption for the DevFest, which says, shaping a future we can trust, right? So how many of you are, oh, this is a very young group, right? How many of you are married? Just raise your hand. Yeah. We trust somebody and marry, right? And it can go well, not go well. right? Or sometimes, for example, my son has told me once, why did you give birth to me? Why was I born in your family, right? So fundamentally, if you look at whether it's a business or you join a company trusting that the company will grow and will take care of you. You join a college trusting that you will be able to study well. So trust is a very, very fundamental thing in human life. Yeah? Trust in self, trust in other people. Both are very critical. So that is what the key thing is. Can we create a future that everyone can trust? That it is safe for them, they can grow and they can live peacefully. So that's what this whole thing is. So, yeah. So what I'm going to talk about is called types of intelligence. So if you look at, I guess most of you are engineers, right? Here? Okay. So I also did BSc physics, okay? I did mathematical physics and all that. So in our country, mathematical intelligence or what is called rational intelligence is celebrated too much. Okay? An example is my son is now just finished bachelor's in psychology in America. Okay? I have my mother's uncle who is in Kunur who has a tea estate. So when he joined, he said, how can you allow your son to do psychology? That also blowing up so much money and sending him for bachelor's in America, right? I think it might be same today in this world, right? But my logic was he loves it. There is no other reason. Second is I am also in consulting where I am doing work in leadership and change. So I know, and especially very clearly, I don't know how many of you know, after COVID, all the counselors I know in Bangalore are overpacked. Okay? Human beings are going to have more psychological problems. So just imagine, psychology is so different from engineering. Simple, right? If you're doing IT, it is 0, 1, correct? Logic is binary logic. In psychology, there is no logic. Everything is maybe seen possible. The language itself is different, right? So that is where this part is very important because all this intelligence is there in you, but you have to develop. If you don't develop things more than mathematical, logical intelligence, you may get wiped off. Yeah? So that is my request to all young people. So let's look at it. First is called linguistic intelligence, which is about language. Your ability to pick up multiple languages, your ability to write well, maybe that also artificial intelligence take charge, but ability to speak, right? That I don't know whether it will take. You can, like for example, all politicians are good speakers, right? That's where people follow them. So the whole thing is, how will you develop your linguistic intelligence? And many of you, except English, might not have studied the next language properly also, correct? I studied Tamil and Sanskrit because I studied near Trichy. So it is very critical to develop your linguistic intelligence. And apart from that, in case you are going to travel to another country, right? If you go to Germany, you need to know German. And second largest language after Mandarin is actually English and Spanish. So you need to pick up languages and your ability to communicate. Second is emotional intelligence. Okay, so let me ask a question. You can just raise hand. In the last 6 months, how many of you have cried? Just raise hand. Just look around, not even 20%. Okay? So basically, our society believes that we have to be rational, we cannot be emotional, right? If you laugh out more, that's not acceptable. If you cry, it is not acceptable. You feel upset, it is not acceptable. So most of the emotions in most societies, not only India, most places is not acceptable, right? So because of which we do not, just to give you an example, in English for emotions there are around 560 words. In Tamil also there will be surely that number, but we don't even know those words, right? So very clearly try to develop your emotional intelligence. It's about understanding emotions, expressing emotions, also understanding somebody else's emotion, right? If that person is sad, without even speaking, do you know that person is sad? So this is the second one. Third is cultural intelligence, which is basically, for example, I don't know, my parents used to live in Kerala, and even between the place I lived in Kerala to when I came to Tamil Nadu to study, the culture felt different. So even in, I think Tamil Nadu, my sense is, whatever you call it, Kongu Nadu is very different from what Tanjore culture is, right? So, and this, when you are, maybe many of you will have to go to different countries. And settling down in different countries is all about cultural intelligence and adaptation. Moral intelligence, what is right and wrong? Yeah. In some sense, some moral intelligence and ethics will be, and this is going to be extremely important in the AI world. What will I do? How will it affect other people? Will it be ethical? Will it kill people? All those questions, right? Yeah. So finally, this is something I guess most of you would have developed very well, being engineers. So till now, whatever I talked about, those are critical going forward. Yeah. Okay. So apart from this I'm going to talk about two things. So when we talk about disruptions, so in change we talk about three kinds of change. First one is called transition. Transition is, let's say, you are moving from school to college. Okay. It's not a big change. It's a transition because it is some other place, some other way of doing things. Okay. Next is called transformation. For example, I have worked with a lot of companies who will move in IT company from waterfall to agile. Okay. Exactly opposite. And that is not transition, it is transformation. Okay. And the third is called disruption. In both transition and transformation, there is continuity. In disruption, it's a cut. What existed is not what is going to exist. And I think during COVID, people, you would have heard like a new order will happen, right? Totally new order will happen, and surely with perma crisis and AI, I think next 20 years, it's going to be disruption. Hence, there are two skills, not very well known, well written, but it's very critical. So the first one is called anti-fragility. There is a book, and the author's name is this. So what does it mean? We all talk about fragile ego, right? When something happens and you are not able to manage yourself, people will say, in Tamil also there are words, I don't want to get into Tamil. For example, if I'm, like, let me take an example. My mother died this year, February, okay? And at least for 3 months, I was in depression. And this is what is called fragile. You break because something happens. Anti-fragility is not breaking. Which means when things you don't even expect happen, you don't fall down, you will slow. You can't go in the same pace. But your ability to bounce back without breaking psychologically is very, very high. And there is a lot of research and work on this guy. You can do Google, you will get enough information about what is anti-fragility, how to develop anti-fragility, because this is not taught in college. Okay? How to be anti-fragile? no college teachers. If you are a fisherman, probably you know what is anti-fragility, because when you go into the sea, you don't know when will you come back alive. All of you who have lived in planes, you don't know anything about anti-fragility, because life has been simple. Yeah. This is again a book called with the same name, called Engaging Emergence. So what it means is turning upheaval into opportunity. Like for example, if you look at the whole COVID-19, I don't know how many of you are working, was a boom in terms of IT services companies in India. Do you know that? COVID happened. Also the, what is that war, Russia-Ukraine war happened, okay? Because of which lot of services which was going to China got stopped, because world thought COVID was sent by China, and all the Eastern European places also, because of the war, it became scary. So lot of work came to India, okay? And this is the time, I don't know, so that salaries went up 100% and all, right? Salaries went up 100%, 150%, because people wanted more people, right? So just look at it, it was an upheaval. At least for India, it became an opportunity. But we messed it up very badly is what I hear, because everybody wanted more salary and people in interview cheated and got a lot of salaries, and now big IT services are thinking of sacking those people. Okay? But the key here is, you would have heard the statement, right? Every problem is an opportunity, right? So whenever something like this happens, every problem becomes an opportunity. So how do you turn the problem into opportunity is a capability. And I just want to touch upon this little more. So if you look at industries, right? Education always does well. Whether market goes down, economy goes down, education does very well, right? Basic food always does very well. Healthcare always does well. Legal system, courts are full, never goes down, right? There are few more, I don't want to talk about it. Okay, so if you look at all these industries, the fundamental problem is fear. We educate our children thinking that if they don't study, they will not survive the world. Health is about fear. Food is about fear. So wherever there is fear, if you can solve somebody's fear, you make a lot of money. Okay? You go and sell up, fine. Religion is the best example of fear. Yeah? So the key here is, it's very important that whenever you are doing anything, for example, even today, the NGO presented, right? Finally, what are you doing as a person? You are solving somebody's problem, right? If you can't solve somebody's problem, nobody is going to pay you, correct? So it is all about not only technical problem solving, how do we handle human problems? That's the key. Yeah? It's not that you write code or you do test. Finally, it is going to save somebody's life or make some difference to somebody. So that's what it is. So I'll go to second part, which is about qualities. Okay. So these are innate human qualities, but we don't pay attention to. All of you have it, but you have to sharpen it, develop it. First is empathy, right? Empathy is different from sympathy. Sympathy is, you feel sad, I will help you. I will give you money or I will give you something. Empathy is, I understand. I thoroughly understand. And this is what counselors and therapists, all of the people do. Coaches also do this. Curiosity. I tell many times when I work with people in companies, most of the people, the moment they got engineering, and masters, whatever, they got into a job, they think they can stop learning. So this is one request to all of you. Your education is only a passport to work life. You need visa, right? Each visa is what new things you pick up. Otherwise, you're stuck in the same country. Yeah. So that is where curiosity becomes critical. Yeah. This is resilience. How will you withstand without breaking when things go wrong? This is another skill which is, I don't know. I have done a lot of work on doing team building exercises in companies. Okay. At some point I stopped doing it because you go, first year you do team building, next year also you go to the same team and do team building. It becomes like cheating the company. Okay. And research shows Indians are not good collaborators. We are very individualistic. Okay. That's where we are good in cricket, not in football. Yeah. So the key thing is, many a times I have seen you have to not only collaborate within your team, sometimes there are two companies working on the same project. That company may be your competitor company, you have to collaborate with them. Then you have to collaborate with your client. And sometimes you have other vendors you have to collaborate with. So this is going to be a very, very critical skill. Yeah. Yeah. So this is about ethics. I don't know how many of you have seen this movie. It's a Tamil movie called Alavandar. This is the anti-hero and that is the hero. So here I will use Tamil. Kadavul Padi, Mirugam Padi, Kalandu Vaitha Kalavaina. Okay. So what it means in English is you are half animal, you are half God. The choice is yours to choose which one you will live with. Yeah. That's what ethics is all about. Yeah. Now the last part. For all of you who are technologists, if you have to look at, say, next 5 years, there are some ideas about what you should do. Adapt your technical skills. Already I hear that low-end coding is taken over by AI. Lot of testing is taken over by AI. So you have to start adapting to what is going to be relevant. Otherwise, you won't be relevant. So this is first fundamental thing. And then also look at, there is a lot of research about what cannot be automated fast. Okay. You just Google, you will get enough insights. Think about domains, think about places. So typically, there used to be a wonderful article I read in 90s. I don't know how many of you understand there is masculine skills and feminine skills. Okay. Most of the low-end masculine skills will be automated. So robo is about masculine body skill. Logical skill, low-end logical skill will go. Most of the feminine skills will become relevant. I am not saying women will become more relevant, but even as a man, if you don't develop feminine skills, it will be challenging. Yeah, focus on problem solving and innovation. Exactly, that's what I said. It's not about coding. It's about what problem are you solving for your customer. What are you doing so new that you will be chosen over somebody else? Yeah, this I talked about. Please start studying, reading. I'm not saying go and join a course. At least start reading books or start reading articles. There are wonderful information about what is happening in the world, and especially study about human behavior and psychology. Yeah? Yeah, that's what it is. Hone human-centric skills. So how do you connect with the person? How do you communicate with the person? All those kind of things. Yeah, this we have talked about. Ethics and governance is going to be extremely critical. Otherwise, the way the first atom bomb was put in Japan, people will use AI to kill people. Cheating already, I think, is starting, but actually physically killing people might start. Yeah, this is the most important item. You have to become resilient and you have to be adaptable, because too many changes are going to happen and it's going to be like this. It's not going to be like this. So this is the most important skill to build. Yeah. Okay, so what we will do now, sorry, I can continue? 10 minutes. Okay. Yeah, so what I want you to do is get up in your chair and form a pair with someone you don't know. Yeah, quick. You are going to have a 10-minute conversation with one person. Just find somebody, or whoever is sitting next to you is also fine, but find a pair. You can sit and talk, you can stand and talk, whatever works for you, but find a partner. You are going to work in pairs. Phone இருக்கா இல்லை ஃபோன் இருக்கா 5 மினிட் டைமர் போடு, நான் ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணணும். எப்படி போச்சு? உனக்கு இன்ட்ரெஸ்டிங். நான் என்ன பேசுனே தெரியல, வாய்க்கு வந்து யூஷுவல் வாய்க்கு வந்ததா நீ. Okay, so if you have found a partner, I will tell you what you are going to do. So this is in some sense a summary. Develop and use multiple intelligences, recognize and use the innate human qualities, build capacities to handle disruption. Okay, so you're going to, this is called a method called thinking pairs. One person will think, the other person will listen, and then we will change. Okay, so it's going to be a very interesting, since I talked about human skills are important, you are going to practice listening, which is a very fundamental skill for 5 minutes without interruption. Okay. So the way it goes, you pair up and decide who's going to think first. Okay. Once you decide, the person who is the listener will ask this question: what do you think and what are your thoughts about leveraging human strengths in time of AI? So Siddharth is going to help me to time 5 minutes. In case the person stops before, which is possible, some people will not be able to think continuously for 5 minutes. You ask the question, second question: what more do you think or feel or want to say? Yeah. So first question is, what do you think and what are your thoughts on leveraging human strengths in the time of AI? If the person stops before 5 minutes, you ask the second question, which is, what more do you think or feel or want to say? Okay, time starts. Please. Last 2 minutes before we close. This is again about emotional intelligence. So appreciate a quality that you saw in the other person. Suppose if two of you had a conversation. So this is not about appreciating the content. Appreciating a content is what we do, right? Whatever you talked is beautiful, this is a great idea and all that. Here you are saying quality. What are human qualities? At least one human quality that you saw in the other person. Yeah? 1 minute each, 2 minutes we stop. Yeah, go ahead. Being an audience who was attentive as well as did whatever I request you to do. So, Nandri Magichi, thank you.
And we would like to give you a gratitude, the token of